It's the biggest mistake that psychiatry is making today. A woman comes into my office, she's 30 years old. She said, I'm here because my previous psychiatrist wanted to fill me up with all these medications. I asked why. She said, well, I'm a little bit afraid to tell you because I'm afraid you're going to call me crazy. When I hear somebody say that, I know that they're about to reveal something to me, and they are very, very nervous now, worried that they will be judged in some way. At the same time, I know that they're going to be honest with me. So I asked her, she said, yeah, I told my previous psychiatrist that I was hearing the voice of God, that I was meditating, and I felt very, very connected. Psychiatrist turned to me after 15 minutes and said, I believe you're having a manic episode with religious delusions. And therefore, I'm going to give you this medication, and it's going to help you. Well, she went home, talked to her husband, and said, I'm not going to see that psychiatrist ever again. She comes to my office, she shares with me the following, and I clap my hands and we talk about it. Spiritual experiences. We all experience them at some time in our life. And yet the psychiatric establishment is calling such situations as crazy. They're calling them manic. They're calling them psychotic. Now, I actually have run a couple psychiatric hospitals here in Pittsburgh. And I'm well aware of when people are truly, truly having psychosis to the point where they really cannot function in the world. They're not able to function in the workplace. They can't have good relationships. They don't take care of their hygiene. They get themselves in trouble because they get grandiose and they take risks and get involved with substances and all sorts of problems. Yes, I would say in those cases, many of those people, they do need proper psychiatric medication treatment. But there's so many other people out there, not necessarily in a hospital, people who are going through all sorts of interesting things. They're having connections. They're having moments of transcendence. They're meditating. They're feeling connected to a higher power. But if they go to a mental health professional, especially a psychiatrist, and talk about this, they then become deemed crazy. And they're being told that they need to be taking medication in order to sort of calm themselves down. Let's disconnect them. Let's numb them. The whole thing is absolutely ludicrous. Some researchers, I believe at Harvard many years ago, they were researching the world of the biblical figures Abraham and Moses. And they decided that Abraham, he was having auditory hallucinations when he heard the voice of God. That's what they decided. And Moses, Moses, they said he was having visual hallucinations when he saw the burning bush. In other words, they were saying that these two biblical figures, they probably suffered from schizophrenia. In today's world, they would be sent to a psychiatrist. They may wind up being committed to a psychiatric hospital. They may be forced medications to calm them down, to make them feel not so connected, so to speak, so they aren't acting so crazy. It would have taken away their life force from them. And sadly, that's what happens all too often in the world of psychiatry. We've learned, research has shown that 80% of the people in America actually believe that we do have a soul. And I would venture to say, I'd go out on a limb and say, I think the other 20% know that they have a soul as well. They just don't want to admit it because they have their own issues with established religion, which I well understand. Established religion has done a lot of damage to a lot of people. But still, I do think people have this belief in spirituality, that they have something inside of them, that they have a yearning for that which is transcendent. A teenager comes to the office and the teenager says, I'm lost. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where my path is going. As a result, I feel that, and the psychiatrist says, oh, are you feeling depressed? The teenager says, yes, I feel depressed. Are you feeling anxious? The teenager says, yes, I feel anxious. And then before you know it, the wise doctor, the wise psychiatrist is throwing medications at them. You have to take an antidepressant. You have to take an anti-anxiety pill. That will calm you down. But all too often it takes away their life force. Now, of course, there are times when they are necessary. There are severe cases of depression, severe panic attacks that people can have where medication can make a world of difference. But medications are way overused. People are at crossroads in their life. They're trying to figure out what to do. And they're supposed to go through the challenges of that, the pain of that, the indecision of that. That's all what makes them grow, makes them stronger, makes them better. In my own training as a psychiatrist, and I went to a program that was very, very steeped in a lot of research, nobody ever talked about the soul. They talked about the frontal lobe, they talked about the limbic system, they talked about all these things, the science of the brain, which are indeed very important. But nobody talked about the soul. And yet we all have that. We all have that piece of divinity that they're inside of us. We all have a yearning for something greater. As we know from Viktor Frankl, the main life force, the main thing that people want is their search for some meaning in their life, to be connected with some purpose in their life, to search inside of ourselves. Stephen Covey and the Habits of Highly Effective People, it starts with our inner world. It starts with understanding our inner world. And then go out to the world. Because listen, do you want to know a secret? Do you promise not to tell? Well, I'm going to tell. I'm going to tell that we need to be connected with that basic part of who we really are. Think about a world where everybody does that. Think about a world where everybody is out there doing goodness because the goodness is inside of them, which then they express out to the world. If a psychiatrist wants to give you medication right away upon meeting you, I would say find a different psychiatrist. Instead, I would advise finding a mental health professional who appreciates spirituality, who appreciates the fact that you may well have moments of spiritual connection and of transcendence. That when you share those thoughts that you may have, that the mental health professional is not going to jump and label you as being manic or psychotic or delusional. So what to do? Well, first of all, I'd say wake up every day. And some days you may wake up not feeling all that great, but nonetheless, wake up with a sense of gratitude. A gratitude for all the things that you naturally have that we take for granted. You have eyes that can see. You have legs that can walk. You have a mind that can think. Imagine if you lost your eyesight suddenly, how upset you would be, what a different world it would be. And then magically your eyesight came back to you 10 minutes later, how much gratitude you would have. Wake up every day with that kind of reality, with that kind of feeling. Next, I would say is you need to put in the effort. You need to put in the effort every day to read things, to study things that are spiritual. Every single day, not just one day a week, but every day to spend that time in spiritual readings. Then it becomes part of you, it becomes inside of you, it becomes more and more who you are. Number 3 is also to spend that time in prayer, or call it mindfulness. Usually in the morning, the time when, that quiet time, when you can connect, when you can meditate, and then take all that's inside of you and reach out, because there's people who are in need. Reach out to other people, people who are poor, people who are hungry, people who need a smile. The more you connect with them, the more you connect also with yourself. These are some practical steps to connect with that which is inside of you. Because in essence, all of us, we really are spiritual beings. Yes, we live in the physical world, but the physical world that we live in, the material that we have, is there simply to be channeled in a more spiritual way. If you do this, I promise you that you will have a happier life, a healthier life, mentally and emotionally.